So I would like to request Mr. Sumit Parekar to share his insights with the insights session on the founder's role in driving growth. I welcome Sumit onto the dais.
Thank you so much, Akash, for the warm introduction and a brief for everybody to take up how this session is going on. So, let me introduce myself. I am Sumit. I started my career with advising Shark Tank India in their season two, and sat with say around 200 250 founders over a period of 1 month in order to understand, evaluate their industries, then understand what kind of funding do they are they looking at, and whether it is aligning with the investor persona at the moment or not, followed by some advisory in the recent show that came up with Karan Johar, Malaika Arora Khan as the host, that is Pitch to Get Rich, which was earlier supposed to be a fashion investment fund. But yes, there was some advisory role that I played in that show as well. And yeah, after my Shark Tank tenure, I joined one of the startups that was based out of Hyderabad itself. Not startups, it was pretty much at a growth stage that was already acquired by one of the bigger groups based out of South India. You must be knowing Cholamandalam groups. So it was acquired by them. I played some part in their acquisition part as well. Then I went on to my next stint in working at an early stage startup, which was also a Shark Tank India funded one, which was a D2C startup. And there I was playing a major role in strategy. And again, having said all of these things, I've always stayed in the strategy bit itself, never went on to anything else. But again, being in strategy is a boon and a bane because you get to take part in everything, but that's also good side and the bad side, but never regretted it though. At the moment, as we speak, I am heading strategy for one of the fintech firms that is based out of Hyderabad itself. My job primarily is to basically understand where the company is heading right now and where it has to head to. And founder's role here primarily, before we begin to jumping on to what the founder's role should play, I want to understand how many of us are at a idea stage. Okay, that's quite a number. And how many of us are at a MVP stage? Okay. How many of us are pre-revenue or early revenue stage? Great. And how many of us are a decently revenue making stage right now? Okay. Anybody is, how many of us are bootstrapped? Everybody is funded. Oh, you are bootstrapped. Okay. Got it. So I'm assuming that considering that we have say somewhere around 80, 75, 80% of us at an idea stage, some of us at MVP stage, and most of us, I mean the remaining of them are at a early revenue stage. Got it. So at this point, I just ask this question only to understand and be able to give insights that are relevant to you at your stage right now, so that you also find value in this. It shouldn't be that I'm, not aligned with the stage that you are at. So at the idea stage, most importantly, the founder should be able to find a market fit, which means, which does not necessarily mean that it should be a product market fit or a founder market fit. You need to be able to find whether the industry that you are trying to get into is actually viable, is actually going to take a good shape, and the solution that you are looking at, how big a problem it is. If it is a problem that is, say, less than 0.5%, I would suggest don't waste your time, energy on or money on it. It should be a significant problem, or it should be significant money. Because if not for money, then there is, impact that we look at. But again, at some point, even the impact has to pay, right? So at the idea stage, ideally, the founder's role should primarily be to be able to get more thoughts, more feedbacks from the people, be able to understand what the customers are looking at, or be able to define what you exactly want to put across, which means your role primarily should be around sculpting the culture that you want to bring into your vision. So having that kind of vision primarily should be able, you should be able to bring that vision not just to yourself but to the team that you are building onto, because if the visions do not align, then sooner or later you will definitely see this issues or say conflicts of interest with your founders, which I pretty much faced in my earlier stint of work. And let me tell you that separation does not only happen say over a 3 months of notice or over a 3 months of handover kind of a period, but that kind of carries on. That okay, whether my co-founder was good at something or bad at something, or whether we left at a good note or a bad note, but the work that they did or the amount of energy that they're putting in getting the job done cannot be measured once the separation is done, right? So having that vision aligned. Secondly, in early stage startups like all of us are here today, having decisiveness is one of the major important points. It cannot be that you are having change in the path or say change in the way forward basis of who you are interacting to. That's one of the major mistakes that most of us do or most of the early stage founders do, is that they are meeting say an investor who's an angel investor, invests say anywhere between 25 to 50 lakh rupees at an early stage startup, and the following week they are meeting somebody whose ticket size kind of depends on kind of has a bracket of say over 2 crore rupees and is also investing in early stage startup. But the vision, the plan should not change as per this. You need to have a strong mindset, a strong psychology, philosophy and strategy behind what you put across for yourself in next 12 months at least. Having this 12 months of plan is one of the most important things I feel at an early stage startup, because we often meet a lot of people. We meet people who are probably valued from say zero to probably 500 crores and 1000 crores as well. You will also get into investor meetings, you'll also get into networking events like that of this, where you will find investors who invest in startups that are at different stages. And you know but having that decisiveness, this most of the times I've seen that they get carried out the in the people that they are meeting to, and that kind of makes you indecisive or say disrupts your psychology behind taking that particular decision. I think that that stops the growth or say that delays the growth, because every time you get influenced your plan changes. I'm not saying that this should not happen at all. Let it happen for a bit, but it cannot be dragged. It cannot be dragged for, say, 6 months. It cannot be dragged for 9 months. I've seen founders who start raising the first round at a round size of, say, 2 crore rupees, then they end up raising, say, 50, 60 lakh rupees, and the next 1.5, 1.6 crore rupees that they are looking at raising kind of drags for a year long. And here it feels unjust to the founder who is investing the first and the last. The guy who is investing first says, I invested at the point where you were way earlier in the stage, and the guy who is investing later is also getting the same valuation. That cannot be the thing. If you are about to raise a round of investment, you should probably have this persona that I will be closing this round in say next 6 months. Or if I benchmark a revenue, say I'm today making 10 lakhs worth of revenue a month, and the moment I reach 40 lakhs in revenue, I am going to close this round whether or not we have enough investors or not. Because it cannot be the same. It would be unjust if I am a company, I raised investment from sir at say when I was doing 5 lakh rupees a month, and somebody from one of you when I was doing 50 lakh rupees a month, and both of you are getting the same kind of valuation. It would be pretty unjust, and investors absolutely hate this. It's not just investors, anybody would do that. You just put across yourself in their shoes and you will know the reason behind hating somebody. This is one thing. Secondly, having the right kind of team and providing what is it that they are motivated by. See, as a founder, it's a difficult job. Firstly, let me congratulate you all to have chosen this difficult job where out of all the jobs you chose to be a founder, where you are taking care of everything, be it from designing the product, being from taking up the marketing strategy, to looking at the hiring of the people, looking at firing of the people. All of these things have to be taken care of by one or two people who are founders and co-founders. But don't indulge in everything as you progress, right? You look at what you are best at, See, if you are a group of founders, one of you has to be sacrificed for funding. This is the baseline truth that nobody would admit, but everybody knows. Whoever has raised, say, 50 crores in funding, they know that one of the founders is always sacrificed for funding. He's traveling around Southeast Asia, he's traveling to US, he's traveling on and off. I've seen big companies, I've worked with founders of, say, bigger companies like Paytm and Bharat Pays of today, and we see that we not all the founders are the face of the company. There are founders who work at the back, whose only job is to maintain that investor relationship, dig out for which investors are aligning at their stage, and what are they supposed to be doing, who are they supposed to approach the next. So while this is happening, you should always identify and stick to what you are best at. If you think you are best at designing the product, you stick to product designing and delegate everything else, which would not just allow you to focus better on what you are best at, but also it will allow people who are aligning with your vision to bring out the best in themselves. So you don't do this primarily to help yourself, but you help other people, which eventually is contributing to the bigger picture, that is the company. Correct? These are two things that we spoke about. One is being able to decide, decisiveness. Second one was being able to focus on what matters. Next one is prioritizing intelligently. See, there are do's and don'ts, and most of us always look at the do's and forget what are the don'ts. If you as a founder are indulging into petty issues which do not probably make an impact or do not probably take you further in the goal, then simply delegate it, simply outsource it. Everything can be outsourced, including the sales. You just have to be decisive enough to be able to delegate it to somebody who's trustworthy. So never hesitate in delegation, never hesitate in asking for help. And as I always say, that founders have to be, you know, call me derogatory or call me abrupt in saying this, but it's a job that we have to be beggars for some time if we are at an early stage, or unless we are inheriting some kind of wealth from our family. But apart from that, jokes apart, it's always that we have to be shameless enough to ask, be able to seek opportunities, and be able to talk to people. As a part of my earlier stint, I was helping startups raising funds, and so not that I'm bragging, but I've helped about 7-8 startups raise over $25 million. So I'm sure that it worked for me. So there should be something right that I might have done. I somehow identified that one of the biggest investor group people have been coming to Hyderabad earlier in 2023, and I begged the guy for 6 months to have that 10-15 minute conversation, only to ensure that I will see some success in closing a particular round. And that guy eventually gave a slot that any person who has decent amount of self respect would reject. He asked me to come to the airport and walk with him from the terminal to the parking lot for that 10-minute walk, and I flew from Hyderabad to Delhi only to have that 10-minute walk with him. But it turned out to be worthy enough. He invested around 7-8 million in two different startups that I was closely working on with, and that did take a shape. So see, I see that as a begging part, but it's probably me convincing him that he should invest in who I am recommending him to, or he should probably take a look at what I am recommending him. Otherwise, I am nobody to him. He could have simply said कि छोड़ भाई मत कर मुझे नहीं मिलना, or could have simply said कि I don't have enough time and space for this. But ठीक है, he tried to show some kind of ego, or maybe he was genuinely busy in these terms, but it ultimately took a shape. So having that belief or having that conviction in your thought process, in your vision, actually takes a shape if you put in enough amount of effort and if you are shameless enough to ask for it. So that should be it. If there are any questions, I generally have sessions where I keep it very, very interactive with people, because that's how it would be a cross learning opportunity for you all. So I would love it that you guys ask questions, or if you have something specific at the moment, please feel free to ask. Sure.
What time or what stage is the right time to go for funding? If you're in an idea stage, is it right to go for funding?
If you're see idea that's a very good question. See, what time is the best time to ask for funding or to start raising funds is when you see an opportunity that your industry is emerging. If you are at an idea stage and you know that your industry is emerging and you know that investors in general have this persona as well, then go for it, even if it meant that losing a bit higher amount of stake. But if you see that this is something that you can do without funding, and debt is also one of the options that we all have to explore, but considering the fact that there is cost of capital, if you can afford the cost of capital, if you can afford the documentation and all of this that the bankers or the debt funding agencies have to ask for, and if you're patient enough and if you think that you can suffice that kind of cost of capital, go for debt funding. And on the other hand, if you see that it can be bootstrapped at the moment and you would be able to do decently enough, if there is 100% of goal that you will be achieving with the funding, and if you think 60-70% of it can be achieved without the funding, don't go for it, because you will end up losing on equity, which you will regret at later stages like series A or bridge round between seed and series A. So evaluating whether you need the fund or not, I'm sure that if you're reaching X without funding, you will be able to reach 5x, 10x. But how long will it take for you to reach to X? And then it will be a founder market fit. It will be a product market fit for the investors where you can demand more, right? Raising 1 crore today at 10 crore valuation or reaching 1 crore in revenue and asking for 10 crore in funding are two different things. Evaluating what makes more sense, what brings in more capital. See, again, having said that, more capital does not mean more success. If you have a bad investor, if you have an investor who does not align with your vision, who does not want to help you, who does not want to introduce you to his circle, who does not want to introduce you to bigger investors, then there is no point. See, when you onboard an investor, it is always important that you note who is he introducing you to. It's always beyond capital. For him, capital is the least important thing that he sees in the startup. For him, it is his exit. Now, if you are able to give him the conviction that if you are onboarding me, sir, today, within 18 months, this is my plan. In 18 months, I will raise this round of funding. In another 18 months, I will give you an exit, and these are the players in the market today who will probably give you an exit. See, the most convincing point you can tell an investor to invest in you is you have a plan for his exit. I think that is the most convincing point any founder can tell to an investor. Have I answered your question? Thanks. So, next questions. Do we have any? Sure. Sorry, most founders?
Didn't have any knowledge about startups, like what we are going into.
Correct.
So, as a founder, what are the aspects that you have to choose? You have to look after.
Look after.
Enter into market or before entering into.
See, yeah, please take a seat. So here, this is a question that ideally anybody who's at idea stage, who's evaluating between products, between ideas they want to pursue, would ask, and it's pretty decent, or it's pretty okay to ask this question. And see, I would say if you are still finding whether this is something that you should pursue or you should reconsider this, then probably do some homework, do a market research where you are trying to understand how big a problem is it and how much people are willing to pay for it. Nobody knew that we would be paying 100 rupees for a 35 rupees milk packet on Blinkit or Zepto today. But convenience is selling like left, right, center crazy in India today, and Indians are paying for convenience as much that nobody else in the world is paying today. Nobody thought this, correct? But it turned out to be like that. People saw an opportunity, they tried and tested it, and they saw कि ठीक है, people are willing to pay say 10 rupees, 20 rupees. Then they go about exploiting कि how much more can somebody pay. Yeah, till the point you see that people are quitting it, they exploit it. But don't do that. Always try to evaluate how much big a problem it is, and how many of us are willing to avail this for a small fee that you are willing to take. Got it? And of course, apart from this, you should also look at what are other people doing. Whoever is serving this kind of a service or a product, what are they doing? How much are they charging? Who are they selling to? What kind of customer persona do you have? One of the major D2C startups face a problem is understanding the customer persona. See, you're a luxury brand. You cannot be selling only to the rich people. You need to develop that, desireness in the people who probably are just below the ultra rich people, right? Then if you are somebody who are selling to everybody, then you need to understand what your customer's pain point is, right? All of these things have to be validated before you come back, before you actually go about perceiving it. But having said that, it's not something that is required at day one. It is a learning that comes eventually. You need to run around, do some market research, go on the field, understand people's perseverance, understand how big a problem it is, and you will find your answers for sure. All right. Anybody else? Right. Thank you so much, everybody. It was a pleasure talking.